I'm Patrick King, and you are watching SYNTHWAVE Ultra. This week's artist is a master of creating rich, detailed soundscapes depicting neon urban dystopias and epic sci-fi journeys. With his multi-part concept albums and interconnected storylines, his work stands out from the crowd of cyberpunk synthwave artists. Please welcome my guest this week, Neontenic. I'm here with Neontenic. Welcome, and thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you, Patrick. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Yeah, thank you. So how did you get started in the whole synthwave, retrowave genre?
Well, I've been making electronic music since 2007, 2008, but I discovered synthwave scene in 2018. I listened casually. I listened to the first Gunship album, and it was like a thunder, like a revelation for me. I felt like wow, but this is my music. This is perfect for my tastes. I was born in the 80s, so listening to something like that was really a revelation for me. So before I was making something like music, like techno music, industrial music. Then I almost immediately started to create 80s music, synthwave music. And in those months, it was the beginning of 2018, I started to create my first tracks for Synth Monster, my first album.
Nice. Yeah, that's really cool because I feel like Gunship is definitely one of those where they're kind of like, a good entry point to the genre, just because it's so iconic, they have such a distinct style, and they're distinctly synthwave. So yeah, that's really cool.
Especially for the first album.
Oh yeah, because their first one especially, I mean, that's definitely one of the classic synthwave albums. Yeah.
Okay.
So who were some of your big influences and inspirations? I mean, you mentioned Gunship, but yeah, who else?
Well, probably my favorite artist in the scene is Mitch Murder, because talking about production is my number one in the scene. His tracks are really clear, are really crispy, are really amazing, and the arrangements are stunning in my opinion. He took a lot of inspiration from fusion music in the 80s and the 90s, but I think he created a really personal interpretation of this music. So I can tell that it's probably my favorite one in the scene. Another musician that inspires me a lot is a wave shaper. There is a track of mine, Dark Drive, for example, my second single from Ultra I album. It's really inspired by his music. And my music, it's really inspired by Depeche Mode and Gary Newman, talking about classics. I grew up with Depeche Mode in my adolescence. Some years ago, I played a lot of Gary Newman covers, for examples, and nowadays I have Cars. It's a very iconic track from Gary Newman, and I made a cover for this track. So I think that talking about classics musicians, these two bands is my very favorite.
Yeah, very cool. I mean, Mitch Murder especially. I mean, I know he's one of those where I feel like he's not as big as say the Midnight or somebody like that, but he's definitely one of those who a lot of artists cite as a really big inspiration, just because yeah, like you said, his production is always super clean, and it is interesting too how he does a lot of different genres. I know his most recent album, it was basically a city pop album. It had that, like you said, that kind of 80s fusion style.
I agree.
So, yeah, it's cool to see how varied his stuff is.
I agree, and I really enjoyed his latest album, Then Again, and I bought the vinyl too, of course, because I really love buying vinyls from the artists I love. And I really enjoyed his EP a couple of years ago, if I'm right. It's called Hardwired. It's pretty different from his latest release. It's more dark, it's more cyberpunk, and I really enjoyed that EP too. But his latest album is really a masterpiece for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it. And that's interesting too, kind of like with because I know, like you said, a lot of his earlier stuff has that kind of like cyberpunk style. I mean, I even remember, I think one of his early ones, the Burning Chrome one. I mean, that's a reference to like William Gibson and Neuromancer, and that's like, classic cyberpunk.
Yeah, great stuff. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
I fell in love with. I felt in love with this genre. I can tell 20 years ago. With Mirror Shades. It's a novel. It's a compilation of novels by especially Gibson, and especially from other very famous writers in the genre. And I can tell you that my first band in 2002, 2003 was called, obviously, Mirror Shades.
Nice.
I'm really inspired by this culture from a lot of years.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I can definitely tell, because I like we talked briefly about your glasses. Like you definitely have established this really cool, like, distinct cyberpunk style and aesthetic. So yeah, like, tell me about that. It's like as Neontenic, you've really developed your own like visual style. I mean, you've, like, case in point, you've got those really cool shades. And especially too on like your album covers, like you just see these like sprawling neon cities and that kind of thing. So what else? So what are some of like your specific cyberpunk inspirations? Like were like specific novels or movies or music or anything like that?
Well, probably it's obvious, but my favorite movie and my first inspiration in the genre since 20 years, it's Blade Runner. Mm-hmm. I know it's a cliche, but it inspires me a lot still today. I really enjoyed the second chapter too. I wasn't disappointed. It was almost a surprise for me, because I really was afraid to see a new chapter of Blade Runner, but it was really good. I wasn't disappointed. And I really loved some other 80s movies that really influenced me a lot, like war games, like Tron. Tron is another cliche, but it's a history. It's a movie history for me. And one of more recent movies is, for example, Dune. It's the same director of Blade Runner 2049. It really inspired me for my latest album, Ultra I, because there are some backgrounds, some sounds, some soundscapes. I really enjoyed the soundtrack too. That for a little part are similar to my album, to my Ultra Wave mood. This is an album settled in 2027, so it's not in 10,000 and more like Dune. Mm-hmm. It's not settled so far in the future, but every album I made, it's settled 1 year later the before. For example, Synth Monster, it's 2004, Neon Prince 2085, and this one is 2086. And I can tell you that the latest track of the album, It's called exactly 2086. So Dune has some atmospheres that inspired me to create the last part of the album, for example. It was really amazing. Probably I enjoyed this movie more than Blade Runner. It's probably a blasphemy. I don't know, but it's my humble opinion.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Kind of like going back to what you were saying about Blade Runner 2049. I remember when they first announced that, I was like, why would you make a sequel to a movie from like 30 years ago? But I mean, Denis Villeneuve is like he's an amazing director. So yeah, 2049 was fantastic, and I still haven't seen Dune yet, but I've heard that was really good as well. So that's really cool those are such inspirations for you.
Yeah, of course, and I think that this movie culture is absolutely fundamental for my inspiration in music. I read a lot of books in the past, but since my vision is pretty inspired, is heavily inspired by the cyberpunk visuals, it's natural for me to prefer something visual, like a movie, like a TV series, for example. I really enjoyed, for example, the first series of Altered Carbon. Mm-hmm. I didn't like so much the second one, but this kind of imaginary of this kind of cityscapes, it's like oxygen for me.
Yeah, no, for sure. That first season of Altered Carbon, I mean, I remember when I first saw the previews for it, I was immediately drawn to it just because, yeah, it definitely had that like sprawling neon cities and all that, kind of like Blade Runner. And yeah, like it really had that really cool, like gritty cyberpunk style. And yeah, like you said, the second season, not as much, but the first season was really good, at least.
It was really poor, in my opinion, for visual aspect and for the story, for the plot aspect. Both I can tell. I was pretty disappointed because I made my first Netflix subscription some years ago only to see Altered Carbon. So I was really hyped by this TV series, and unfortunately the second one wasn't so cool like the first one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that was a real shame. That because and it was I remember too, because I really like Anthony Mackie. Like he's really good in like the Marvel stuff. But yeah, it just wasn't as good. But you know, that is what it is, unfortunately, sometimes. So you had mentioned how each of your albums is set in a different year. So in going back and listening to some of your stuff recently, I did like that. I did kind of pick up on that, how there is that sort of like narrative world building stuff. So tell me about that. Like, what's like the overarching story between like Synth Monster, Neon Prince, Ultrawave?
Yeah, I worked a lot on a concept for every album I made, and for the first one, Synth Monster, I created a particular, almost a grotesque, a very ironical story about this synth monster. It's like a monster built by synthesizers, by all the synthesizers. And it's the protagonist of the story. He misses a part to play his synthesizers, and the album go through his adventures to find this part. He is helped by Sheila Gordon and Cody, and these are two characters of the story that give an hand to Synth Monster to find this part to play his music. And there is obviously an antagonist, an enemy, a villain in the album. It's Jimmy Roland, and it's a very bad policeman to try to cut and to fight this synth monster. And there is an ebook about this with some cool illustration, in my opinion, on my website. And about the Neon Prince, we are in another part of the world. In Monster, we are in Los Angeles of 2024. In Neon Prince, we are in Tokyo, in Shinjuku, especially in 2085. This album is really inspired by my trip in Japan of 2019, just before all the mess we faced.
Yeah.
During June of 2019. It was probably, I can tell, a trip that changed my life. I was like, it was like to be in my pics, in my photographs I post on my Instagram page. And this trip inspired me a lot to create this soundtrack for another story. There is another protagonist. It's called Kazuhiko. It's a photographer, a night photographer, a night shooter, to be exact. And he's passionate about taking the right light in the night, about neon lights, etc. He discovers a special power, and there is a nice story that starts from this point to bring him in a solitary adventure in space. It's like a purification, maybe, but we are in Tokyo, and at the end of the album we are in the space, in the deep space, trying to reach another civilization, to save this civilization. Yeah, I think a lot about these stories. I always have a lot of imagination since I was a child, and I think it will be a great thing for my little baby when I can tell him some stories.
Aww. Yeah, that's
my wife
cool.
tells me a lot. I can wait that you tell some stories to our baby, because he's 7 months old.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I can start to tell him some stories during next year, probably. And we are coming to my third album, Ultrawave. We are in 2087. This album is settled in more and more dystopic, more darker ambient. We are in a planet dominated by machines, by computers, and there is a little faction, a little number of humans survived that try to keep alive themselves. So this album is like a soundtrack. It's like a soundtrack for these rebels that try to opposite to the machines. And every track is a little chapter in this fight, in this war, I can tell. And I'm thinking to release a short novel too about this, but I'm still working on it actually, and I'll tell you more soon.
No, that's really cool. Like I always really like it whenever artists do like full-on concept albums with, like, you know, an actual like realized plot and characters, and especially too, like you said, with doing like comics and illustrations and novelizations to go with it, just to really like flesh it out. Because yeah, I think that's one of the things that synthwave really lends itself to is yeah, like those really cool narrative elements like that. Because I feel like there are definitely some other artists who do that as well, and when it's done well, I mean, like your stuff, it just makes it that much more interesting and engaging.
Yeah, it's the reason that I try to create a story behind the music, because Nowadays it's really easy for a musician, especially for an electronic musician, to create music. And as you know, we are really overwhelmed by music, by artists, by new artists every day. There is incredible competition between musicians for websites, for interviews, for playlists. Almost every day there is a newcomer to the scene, and a lot of the times it's a good musician. So it's really hard to follow every news, every new album. But I try to keep an eye on all of them, and I think that creating a story, it's something more in an album, in a project. It's a little harder to create a story that can arrive to the people, because music obviously it's more easy, it's more immediate. But a story you have to explain, and you have to show, to post almost every day something about the story. I tried with SynthMonster on my skin. I tried this aspect of creating a concept album, but at the same time it was a really exciting and engagement. And I think that I will keep making albums in this way, because I want to create a story. I want to put on a screen, or on a sheet, on a paper, my story, my imagination, my period. For example, I can tell that I'm in love with my characters, especially for SynthMonster characters, because it's my debut album. So I really in love with this story. But to answer your question, yes, it's pretty important to try to make a little difference between the other musician. Sorry, man, maybe I talk too much. My answers are too long, but if I talk too much, no problem.
No, that's
stop me.
No, perfect. I mean, that's it. Exactly what this is for folks to talk about their projects and stuff. So no, you're good.
Okay, thank you.
No, that is really interesting though, because yeah, like having these like fully fledged concept albums is definitely a good way to stand out. Because yeah, like you said, I mean, synthwave is definitely, it's like there's always somebody new coming in, and having like a storyline and characters and that kind of thing really does make you stand out from the crowd.
Yeah, I totally agree, and that's why I will keep it to create concept album if I can. And I think that I have a lot to tell to the people, because I think I have a lot of imagination, and I really influenced by a lot of movies, books, like I said before. So it's like to create music for me, to create a story, to create characters, to create a plot. It's almost like creating music for me.
Excellent. So I know earlier this year you played the big Static Realms Synthomania event. So how was that?
Well, it was really amazing, and it's always a pleasure to play for Static Realms, because they're really kind. They love my music, and it's really an honor for me to play for them. And I'm really happy to collaborate with them, because they really support the scene, and they are very particular in their way to follow the scene. They have some other projects too. For example, Static Desires. It's completely another kind of mood of music, but it's always a pleasure to create something with them. We have a lot of interest to making something together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Because I know So like a while back, I talked to Zarina, and she's done a lot with static realms as well. Like I know they kind of like she does Absinthe and all that, but yeah, like I remember we talked about that with like static realms, and there's like static desires, which I think that's more of like the EDM trance stuff, I think.
Yeah, it's a pretty different mood, as I said, but I think that they are really important for the scene because they create a very nice events, and they are always available to know a new musician, for example, to create a new events. The only bad thing for me it's that they are on the other side of the globe, so we can't create something together alive. Unfortunately, here in Italy there is not a scene, so it's really hard to create a gig, for example. But I can tell you that I am working a lot for a SYNTHWAVE event in Genoa.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very nice city. It's my city. It's a city on the Ligurian Sea, on Mediterranean Sea. And I'm working to create a live set with Orax.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he's Italian too, and he took part in Ultrawave, my Ultrawave album. He made a really cool remix of Set Me Free, and it's a pleasure to think about an event together.
Yeah, definitely. Because that's one of the things that's also really cool about synthwave is that it's such a global genre. I mean, there's people like obviously here in the U.S., Canada, then like all over Europe. But yeah, I guess that's true. I guess there's only a handful of folks in Italy, but I mean that is great that you're able to like not only collaborate but like collaborate locally like that to do a live show.
Yeah, as I said, it's really hard because we have to create from the first brick to the rest. The reason it's like we have to create the scene for a night, for example. But I have looking at my Spotify statistics. I have a lot of Italian listeners, and it's the same for other synthwave musicians. So I can tell that I think that there is a silent scene. There is not maybe a venue or event where all the people can listen to this music. But since I am a little pretentious in my life, sometimes this time I have the ambition to create a synthwave event, even if only for a night.
Mm-hmm. No, that's it. I mean, that's the way to do it. I mean, you got to start somewhere, right? So building a local scene there. It's it's a good starting point.
Yeah, I hope this is a start point for other events. I'm working for other live sets in other part of Europe, but probably the first one will be this one in Genoa with Orax. I will have another event in Milan in the first part of 2022. Probably, I hope I have already played in this show when this interview will be online. And I'm working for a live set in Germany and maybe London too. And in Strasbourg too. Strasbourg, it's in Italian, Strasbourg in French, maybe. Sorry, I don't know the exact pronunciation. It's a really nice town in France, and there is another artist that took part in my latest album, Ultrawave. It's called Microwave. He's from that city, and he told me he's trying to create an event in his city with maybe my participation too. It will be. I really hope to do this because I think I never been in that city, and I know it's really amazing.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, that's great that, you know, there are other folks like yourself who are like, you know, starting up their own events and stuff in their own respective cities. So yeah, that's really exciting. So
Yeah, it's the best part of the game for me. I played 200 200 live events in my music activity in the past, so it's the best part of the game. I love to play synthesizers, create music, but the best part it's playing music live.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. Just like getting up there and just like, you know, yeah, actually playing it live, like in front of people, as opposed to just like, you know, like they're in your studio or something. Yeah, I would imagine there's definitely like a pretty significant difference.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like a liberation for me. It's like freedom to be on the stage. This is what I feel when I play live in front of a lot of people.
Awesome. Well, kind of going off of that, so you mentioned a handful of shows for 2022. So what's next for Neontenic? I mean, I know you've got the new album that'll be out by the time this is up, and then you've got some more shows. So what's next for you?
Well, I can tell you that we are talking about my upcoming third album, but there is a lot of things about my fourth album.
Oh wow!
Because I will post in a few days really great news. This is a preview for you.
Nice.
I created an NFT with Dream Fiber. I don't know the exact pronunciation. It's a great artist, probably you know him.
Oh yeah.
He created 3 videos with 3 soundtracks by me, and I received a mail from crypto.com to create something like this. I received this mail. Hey, we saw your works. We listened to your music. Please do an NFT for us. Of course. I worked a lot and I found this collaboration with the Dream Fever. He's a really nice guy. I was surprised. It's a really cute guy, and it's a really amazing artist. He created 3 videos, fantastic videos, heavily inspired, casually even inspired by Blade Runner. And these NFTs will be the base for my forthcoming album in 2022. And I can tell you that this new album will be another concept album. There is a really heavy plot behind, and these NFTs are tell about the story, and I will send something in the future, in the next day, to use to check this work.
Yeah, very cool. I'm looking forward to that. Excellent. Well, so we've got a few more minutes here. So, was there anything else you wanted to add or promote or anything like that?
Well, I think that we talked about a lot of things, but maybe not in 2022, because I cannot do everything I want to do. It's a question of time. It's really hard after the baby boy was born. Now it's really hard to find time to create music sincerely. But in my agenda there is a cover EP too, for example. During these years, I find a lot of kind people, and I did a very nice collaboration, nice collabs with the great artists. So I thought about creating a cover EP, sorry, with this artist, for example. Set Me Free, it's my first single from Ultra Wave with Lisa Kant. She's an amazing singer. I was extremely impressed by her during the rehearsal, during the record session. She's a monster. Her voice, it's extraordinary. And I'm thinking to make a cover, a Depeche Mode cover with her. Yeah, at the end of Set Me Free, there is my voice too. we never have before. And Lisa told me, "Wow, you have a nice voice. We have to find to do something together. We have to." I was really shy about this because, I sing the almost 20 years ago in a couple of bands, but I'm not really a singer. But she gave me a lot of courage about to create a cover together, sing it together in this Depeche Mode cover. So I think we will try this experiment for me during the next year. I don't know. And I will do a Massive Attack cover too with Ray Canex. She's another amazing singer. We collaborated on Night Shooter, Neon Prince, and she really enthusiastic about this collaboration, and it's something we'll do during next year, I hope. And there are another couple of covers, but I think I told you enough for now.
No, that sounds really exciting though, because Depeche Mode is always great. So I'm really excited to hear your take on that.
Yeah, I can tell you that I want to play Enjoy the Silence. Don't worry.
Yeah, it's a great song, but yeah, it's a little played out for covers.
Yeah. There was another cover by Trevor something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a really nice cover in my opinion, but I think that almost every electronic band did a cover of Enjoy the Silence.
Yeah, it's gotta
because
branch
it's a fantastic song.
Oh yeah,
I have to tell that it's one of maybe the best song by Depeche Mode. But I try to find something a little less inflationated.
Mm-hmm. All right, cool. Well, Neontenic, thank you very much for joining me today, and yeah, I am definitely looking forward to your new releases and that cover EP. That sounds really exciting.
Well, it was a pleasure to be here with you, and thank you so much for your time. And I hope to do another chat in the future about my new releases. Who knows?
Oh yeah, for sure. All right, cool. Well, thanks again, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, and bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks for watching. That was my conversation with Neontenic. Make sure to check him out on Bandcamp and Spotify, as well as following him on Twitter and Instagram. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at @PatrickKingArt. Be sure to check out the Synthwave Ultra playlist on Spotify for tons of synthwave of all sorts. Don't forget to like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe to this channel for more great synthwave conversations. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time on Synthwave Ultra.